Hello and welcome to the Mindful Man Project. This is where we discuss all the issues and pieces of the puzzle that is mental health. We look at the things in life that get people down or create anxiety in their life and hopefully give some guidance on how to become a modern mindful man or woman. I am your host, Tyson Venables. On today's episode, we have Packman. Asher is a meditation teacher, healer, and facilitator. Asher runs a holistic wellness space in Melbourne called Fifth Direction. We talk about his own personal journey and what has led him to this point. We talk about his fight with blood cancer and the inspiration this has given him to not only help himself but also help others who he sees inside and outside of his business. This was one of my most favourite interviews so far. Asher and I have crossed paths on various occasions, and it seems to have been for a divine reason. So strap yourself in, here we go. Welcome guys, today we are sitting here with Asher Packman. Asher is a meditation teacher and healer at Fifth Direction. You're still at A-Space, or is that A-Space?
No, they're still going,
yeah.
But I haven't worked for them for a little while now.
Yeah. That was where I first met you. Like I came to a heart space meditation.
Oh, okay.
It was when I first came to Melbourne, and I was just like, I'm going to try meditation.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was driving there, I was driving up Punt Road, and if anybody who lives in Melbourne or has ever been to Melbourne, if you've ever spent time on Punt Road, you're pretty much white knuckling it or stuck in traffic for a good amount of time. And it was quite ironic that I was on my way from St Kilda to Collingwood up Punt Road, trying to make it to Ash's class, and sitting there going, oh my God, I have to get to meditation, hurry up. And I'm like, breathe, dude.
Yeah.
And then I got there, and it was one of the most amazing meditations that I've ever done, just the heart space meditation, just feeling energy in the room and sending it out and bringing it back in. It was so profound, and since then we've kind of crossed paths along the way.
Yeah, we have.
So I want to know what you've been up to, and so what have you been doing? And
yep.
Yeah, how you been?
Good. Yeah, so we opened this place, the Fifth Direction in St Kilda, at the beginning of the year. Probably March or so. And so kind of a lot of my energy has been focused on this place, getting it up and running and settled, and it's going great now. So, before then I was kind of like, that's why I was working a little bit at A-Space in different places, but now I've kind of got my own space along with Duncan McDade, who's more of a movement guy, whereas I come from more of the meditation side. So we're kind of blending the two things together and creating a space, a studio where people can kind of move and meditate and get all their well-being in the one place.
Yeah, well, that's such a great thing. It's like, I think so, and being able to educate people who just want to move, that there's that part of the mind exercise that needs to be done as well. And I think that's a strong part that some people just tend to neglect because they just want to keep going and pushing the body. So sometimes just bring it back into the mind and
Well, you absolutely need both.
Absolutely.
And it's really been interesting to see here, because previously to me coming along here, Duncan was running this place as a gym.
Yeah.
And so, there are those old members who were just coming here for kind of strength and conditioning classes, and seeing some of those people kind of flow into the meditation classes has been really nice too. And also vice versa, people that knew me would come for the meditation and the heart space kind of stuff, but now they're kind of gravitating towards some of this movement stuff too. And we've kind of got avenues all the way up, like we offer yoga here and animal flow and like all the steps up to kettlebell class.
Yeah.
So it's great.
That's pretty good. Like it's such a good, wherever you are on your fitness or wellness journey, it's such a great way of slowly introducing people into different forms. Like they may be so stringent on one thing, but eventually they start to go, okay, oh, that class looks interesting. And then they eventually have just got this well-rounded wellness lifestyle.
And we see this as a bit of a hub for that, because the way I see wellness is really through the four aspects of well-being. So you've got your emotional health, your physical health, your mental health, and what I would loosely refer to as your spiritual health. Which goes all the way back to connection with nature and all those types of things. So we're offering classes in each of those kind of four areas, And I believe true well-being is when all those things are in sync.
Absolutely.
And often what we'll do as humans is we tend to gravitate towards the things that we either like or we're good at. So, if you like, lifting heavy weights, then that's kind of all you'll do, and you'll become, over dominant in that aspect of your well-being. But the other three are the areas where you probably need to work on.
Yeah.
So, if we have someone who comes in here and wants to go to the gym every day, it's like, well, maybe not every day. How about you work on some of this other stuff? Because we tend to avoid that place where we're uncomfortable, which might be your emotional health or your spiritual health. And by spiritual, we kind of mean, why I'm on the planet. Like, you got to have kind of meaning for your existence, and you got to kind of work towards that, because that's kind of a real foundation stone.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I found, even just in my own work recently. It's like working out your why, not so much to the point where you're like in your own head and like, why am I here? It's just like allowing yourself to sit in those situations and looking at those instances where you do avoid them and looking at the why you do avoid them. And then I found lately that even my own growth, it's just been really great in that respect, is being able to sit in those areas. Okay, cool. Now I actually know why I want to do that, or why I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Moving forward, and it just does it. Your growth, your own personal growth, just goes from leaps and bounds.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's got something to do with purpose. It's like if you're doing yoga all the time, or you're lifting weights, or doing your meditation, and underneath that is like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And there's something to do with it, with a higher purpose. And you got to sit in that stuff and figure it out a little bit. Like, as you say, not walking around the whole time going, everything needs to be some profound moment about why I'm here. But just connecting into that and allowing it to be there is important.
It's really special. And so what drove you down this direction? What drove
the whole
you
thing?
Your why?
Look, I guess the short story, and that's difficult for me being 6'6". It's basically I did all the normal things. I had the corporate career going. Grew up in Melbourne with stresses in the normal stuff around family, which kind of like a lot of conditioned behaviours coming in and conditioned beliefs. And my view of the world was that in order to be happy, in order to be successful, you have to kind of chase everything externally from you. So I got into a corporate career and found myself working all over the world with that. I was in Hong Kong, I was in London, and different places. And but I knew underneath all that I wasn't particularly happy. Talk about that purpose thing, right? That aspect of my wellness was not being looked after, and I knew I was deeply unhappy, and I knew that it wasn't really what I was put on this earth for. But my initial reaction to feeling that discomfort was to do more of it. It's like, oh, well, I just need a bigger salary. I just need a faster car, a bigger house, a prettier girlfriend.
Chasing that next material.
That's right, because that was all I understood from the model, right?
Yeah.
And this is what happens to a lot of us. And I can talk about it through the lens of a man, because I am one, and also I work a lot in that area.
Yeah.
But a lot of men, that's their model of existence. So if they get more of the external stuff, they think they're going to fix that hole inside themselves. But for me, and for a lot of guys, it takes some sort of event in your life which gets behind the armour, and you realise you don't have any defences and you just fall apart. And for a lot of men, that can be the loss of a job, or a breakup of a marriage, or sort of disassociation with your kids, or physical health. For me, I kind of had a little bit of a triple whammy, because in 2007 my sister took her own life after a significant period of time with some pretty major health stuff going on. And then a couple of years after that, my mum was on her cancer journey with bone cancer, and she decided to take her own life as well, just because of she was in a very different place from my sister, in the sense that she was kind of stage 4 bone cancer, and things were looking really grim. And to me that's actually quite a courageous decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very different circumstances, but at the same time, it's really rocked my boat. After my sister, things really changed for me. My eyes sort of started to open up to what life was really about, and then Mum kind of just cemented that down. But in leading up to my mum's death, I'd been feeling pretty sick myself, and I think I just put it down to the stress of everything that was going on, because those events were quite close together. And then literally like 6 weeks after Mum passed away, I was diagnosed with a blood cancer.
Oh wow. Yeah,
So yeah, the triple whammy, right? But you know, and so from that point on, everything just changed for me. I actually ended up spending 2 weeks at the Melbourne clinic. I pretty much had a nervous breakdown, which is probably, you know, fair enough given the circumstances.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when I came out of there, I just, you know, I had a blank canvas basically, and I realised that, you know, I wasn't going to be going back to the corporate world anytime soon, both because my mindset had completely shifted, but also physically I knew I wasn't able.
Yeah.
In fact, oddly enough, I had another attempt at doing it. I went back to work for 3 months when I got well again, and it was just, that just totally made it clear to me that this is not happening for me. But in the meantime, I found meditation and some other things, and I just kind of completely fell in passionate love with the whole
It's
the whole
pretty
thing.
profound once you've been to that bottom of the bottom of the shit pile.
Yeah.
And you start to find those little bits and pieces that just quieten the mind, or just allow you that time to just be.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I know myself in my own journey is just like getting into that point where I literally try to take my life. And it's just to the point where you get to that point and you manage to get out, it doesn't end up happening, and you then, okay, cool, now I've had this chance to blank slate, start again and grow, and it's the same sort of thing like what you've got there. It's just like,
yeah, and you talk to so many, I mean, I keep saying men because I work with men, but you talk to lots of human beings, and this is a kind of a consistent theme in life, that, you know, you hit that rock bottom point, and it's from that point you kind of grow, you know. And, you know, from a Jungian sense, you kind of look into the abyss and you actually realise that it's a feather bed. And all those dragons that you thought were against you are actually you.
Yeah.
You know.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
It's just you against yourself.
It's just you against yourself. And I remember my mentor saying to me one of my mentors saying to me at one point in my journey, I'd just been off on some frustrated rant about all these things that were happening, and there was just silence, and he just said to me, like, when are you going to quit the war on yourself? Like, when are you going to just put down your weapons? And I was like, oh, right. Exactly. It's all me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this to myself.
It's like the book, The Untethered Soul.
Oh, what a book.
That's one of my most favourite books ever. It's
just
like, it always brings me back. When I start asking questions of myself, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, that's that person you don't want to listen to, that's that best friend who's saying that to you.
Yeah.
You walk away from it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I think Michael Singer is unbelievable. I actually just recently listened to like this short video series that he did. It was only like 6 half-an-hour videos.
I haven't seen it.
Oh man, he's just, that book did the same thing to me. I just found it like utterly profound.
Yeah.
And again, this little video series I watched recently, he's on the money. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
So I'll get that and put it in the show notes, because then that way everybody else can watch it at home as well.
Yeah, and it's free. So
yes, that's a Michael Singer.
It's like it's through Hay House. I think it's actually promoting like a bigger course that he does, which costs quite a lot.
Yep.
But you get these 6 videos for nothing as a kind of a taster.
A little bit.
And and it's really worth it. It's amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So from your journey and now to where you are now, so you're now in a space where you're helping people. Obviously, you've still got your own illness and stuff there, but through what are you doing now in this space, and how you, like you say, you're working with men, and how you've got your men's circles and stuff like that. What are you? Yeah, what's on offer? What's Asher offering to the world?
Yeah, look, it comes in. There's a few different kind of angles. I mean, you can come in here and just do, you know, regular kind of meditation one-on-one style classes with me and with other meditation teachers that we have working here, and they relate to, you know, there's lots of different kinds of meditation, and we offer quite a few different variations on the themes to see what resonates with people. So there's that kind of thing, like just come and, you know, be a member here and you can come and have access to me that way. Or you can work one-on-one with me, where I just kind of offer my consulting services, and that can take, you know, that's really uniquely tailored to the requirements of any particular individual, you know. I mean, predominantly I work with guys in that space, I definitely work with women in that space too. And oftentimes, I connect with people, you know, my own experience might just mirror something that's going on for them. You know, like I'll get people come to me because they or a loved one has just had a cancer diagnosis, so you know they can sit across the table from me, and whilst I may not know exactly what they're going through, I'm vaguely in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Or it might be, you know, grief and suicide stuff, or you know just more generally they've hit a crisis in their lives. You know, I get a lot of men, and what's happened to them is what happened to me. You kind of hit that point in your life where you know you're sucked underground for a while.
Yeah.
And you got to learn how to kind of breathe under there, and rather than see it as suffering, to understand that there's lessons to be learned, and when you rise up again, you'll have all these gifts.
Yeah, that's the best thing, is like those gifts, especially when you start to realize, yeah, this is a gift that's presented itself to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and looking at those little lessons that when they present themselves,
Yeah.
Okay, this is something that I've noted, like something that's happened to me in the past. Why is it now coming back up? Why am I thinking, like, what? It's not Tom, Dick or Harry down the road doing it. It's that mirror, yeah, like you said, the mirror of like those people who come to you.
Yeah.
Like, they're coming to you because they can see what they've got in them.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's pretty profound when you start to feel those little lessons here, there and everywhere. And for you being able to, as a facilitator doing that, one thing I would like to know is, like, if you're like a mate or someone comes to you, what would you offer as like a bit of advice for people who are actually suffering or who are coming to you and telling you something that's going on for them? And then how do you offer like up support without obviously taking it all on and like, holy shit, like that's a lot of weight for me. Like, how would you offer up support to somebody who in your circle who comes to you with that and like with open arms, but also with that shield?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of facets to that question.
Yeah, sorry, it's pretty loaded.
Yeah, it's a bit in there, but I mean, well, the first thing that jumped out into me is like, how do you hold all that energy all the time? And for me, it's like the best facilitators in this space are the people that you let that energy flow through you. You know, like you're just a conduit for the energy rather than a container.
Yeah.
So, and I often see that in people like, you know, psychologists and other people that work in mental health. Like, you know, sure that there's a lot of, it's difficult to be in that all the time, you know, seeing lots and lots of clients during the day. But if you're doing it really well, that energy just flows through you. So it shouldn't get to the end of the day and be totally drained with all these people's dramas, you know, and all these people's stories kind of in you. You know, it's a bit like what Michael Singer says in The Untethered Soul. You know, they become samskaras, and he talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
But if you can just be a conduit for that energy and allow it to just flow through you, which is kind of what we're getting to in that heart space meditation that you came to.
Yeah.
Then, you know, it's not really impacting you physically or mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's just going through you, and you can just be there and hold space for the person, and that's when you're able to give them the best possible energy back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely not here to give advice to people. I mean, really, all I'm doing is allowing them to see that they have all this wisdom inside themselves anyway.
Yeah.
And that, you know, these situations, that they generally come to you with a particular situation. It's getting them to maybe just see it through a different lens, because the ego wants to intrinsically label an experience good or bad. But to me, that's almost arrogant, because you're saying that you know better than the universe.
Yeah.
Like, the universe will always give you the experience that you need at the level that you need it. You know, which in my case seems pretty harsh. You know, losing your sister and your mum and then getting cancer. But frankly, where I was on my journey, anything less than that wouldn't have woken me up.
Yeah.
You know, and you always get...
It's like that. It's the maintenance, destruction and creation.
100%.
It's like, hey, here's one little bit of destruction. Here's another bit. Take notice now.
Yeah.
No, you haven't taken notice.
Yeah, and so it gets it ratchets up. You know,
Yeah.
I like to talk about the feather, the brick and the train. I'm like, if you're off your purpose, and this comes back to that that spiritual essence of our well-being, if you're not, you know, living the life you're meant to be living, the universe will keep bumping you back onto the right track.
Yeah.
And you know, it'll start off as a tickle under the chin, which most people will just completely ignore. You know, and think about it, you know, in terms of your health, you first get a tickle in the throat, you're probably not going to do anything about it. And then, you don't listen, so the universe, hits you in the face with a brick.
Yeah.
If you're still not willing to listen, it's going to be a train wreck. And for me, where I was, as I said, on my journey, it needed to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
So, but at the time, it seemed like something bad. The ego's like, these things that happened to me are bad. I'm so unlucky. Why me? I don't deserve this, or that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point, well, hey, A, why not me? But B, I look at it now through the retrospective lens, and like those things created the true me. That like I'm
that
now
needed to be there.
Like I would never have been sitting down with you, running a studio like this and doing the things which actually speak to my soul, like who I really feel that I am, like genuine me, and I'm passionate and found my purpose and all this sort of stuff. I'd still be like corporate Asher, like getting up in the morning, doing the grind and swimming against the stream in a way that would make me highly, like I may well have removed myself from the planet by now.
Yeah.
I was getting that depressed and anxious.
Yeah.
So in a sense, getting cancer might have saved my life. Second to that is all the changes that I've made in my life in terms of my own well-being, in terms of the way I think, the way I eat, the way I move, meditating, all these things, probably means that I'll live longer with cancer than I would have without it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's quite an ironic kind of situation how it's happened.
Mm.
But yeah, like your life overall is probably a whole lot healthier than what it was potentially going to be.
Yeah. And so, it's potentially been enhanced by these experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
Well, it has.
Yeah.
And now I can be of service to other people because of the experiences that I've had myself, and hopefully as a 50-year-old dude, I've got a bit of experience and a bit wiser. But, at the time, this was a nightmare, which is why I ended up in the Melbourne clinic, because I was resisting. Like my mind was saying, I can't believe this has happened. This is not fair. This is unjust. This is like, a living hell, and I'm not going to accept it. But what I realised is, A, you can surrender to it and you can accept it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with it. And people think that agreement and acceptance are the same thing. And it's like, you can not agree with an event. It's like, fuck that. But you can still accept that it happened.
Yeah.
And finding that place is very different.
It's that little middle ground.
There's that, that's right. I think for me it's the difference between giving up and giving in.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Completely agree.
Mm.
I always ask all of my all of my guests, from your area of expertise, the Mindful Man Project focuses on 4 pillars.
Okay.
Much like business. It's mates, mindfulness, muscle, and mastery.
Mate, that's pretty similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, all these things, it's all one truth, right?
It's literally like, like the mates, like getting around your mates. Muscle, either working your body or your mind. Mindfulness, obviously, the meditation side, and the mastery, how to master certain areas in your life or whatever, or looking to level up. And so I always ask my guests three things that you could potentially offer the listener to then help them level up any of those areas. So there's some that are just screaming out at you.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing that's really profound about when you talk about your 4 M's is how nicely it links into the masculine archetypes. Because the way what we base all the men's circle work that I do is on this kind of Jungian psychology of the 4 I guess primal energy patterns in man, which is king, warrior, magician, lover.
Yeah.
And if you think about what you just said back there, it's like king equals mastery. There's no doubt about that, right?
Yeah.
Muscle equals warrior. Mates is lover. What was the 4th one?
Muscle, mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness. Well, mindfulness is kind of a warrior trait too.
Yeah.
And then magician is in there too, because that's about kind of leveraging your skills and planning and strategizing and stuff like that. So there's probably a way to make that fit really nicely. That was just the first thing that just jumped out at me. It's like we're on pretty much exactly the same page. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, it's it's a huge coincidence.
Or not.
Or not.
Or the fact that it all does boil back down to this single truth. So the question was, what would I offer people?
Three things that you could offer a listener that they could take away and implement whatever into their life.
I mean, I would say, you know, it's tricky off the cuff, but certainly for me, particularly if someone, like I have a long history of anxiety and depression, like underlying that whole story that I tell you is a really anxious, depressed kid.
Yep.
And that little passenger on my shoulder has been with me the whole time. So for me, tip number one would be a quick and easy way of kind of managing that, like, you know, kind of the reset button, or kind of helping with your resilience to kind of work through the day. Because at the end of the day, you know, life is like drinking from a fire hydrant for pretty much everybody, and you got to kind of find a way through. So I would say tip number one for me is breathing. You know, it's like just some simple practice that you can do when you're sitting in your car, or you're on public transport, or you're just finding little moments during the day to kind of like, you know, I see resilience as kind of like a fuel tank. And, you know, the day comes out, even when it goes down, right? And there's little moments that we have for little practices that we can do, kind of put a bit more petrol in the resilience tank.
Yeah.
And for me, a simple breathing exercise that takes 2 or 3 minutes that you do several times a day is would be tip number one. And, you know, maybe something like box breathing, you know? Like, you know, 4 seconds on the inhale, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, you know, and just, you know, square breathing or box breathing, just simply doing that for a minute and a half, 2 minutes sitting in the car is a great way to reset the system.
Yeah,
so
I agree. That one is one of the ones where my first initial like entry into kind of like breath and meditation. Box breathing was great because it just allowed me to go, all right, everything's happening out here. Just come back to that box. And I was literally visualizing the box as I was drawing it.
Exactly, right.
Then obviously you're visualizing it, so the brain is like coming back into that space. And it was such a great way to just start into that realm of meditation. And like you said, there's many different things.
Well, you can work up from there, man. You can, like, from that 4 second on each of the sides of the square, you can work that up to 10 seconds and then all the way up to 20 seconds, which is a yogic minute breath. And if you're doing 20 seconds around it, like that would look like 20 seconds in, 20 seconds hold, 20 seconds out, 20 seconds in. So it's a minute. And you do that, you start to, like, now you're getting into more of the Wim Hof breathing thing where you're really starting to biohack in the body and changing the carbon dioxide oxygen ratio and really moving stuff around. So you can go from a simple reset practice to something actually quite profound, and you can just work your way through that. So that's cool. So that'll be tip number one. And tip number two for me would be something around making sure that you move every day. Whether that's just, you know, getting up and going for a walk around the block or whatever it is, like, we've just got to move our bodies. Like this vehicle we have for our experience, you know, needs to be moved. And so there's that. And you'll find that a lot of things will start to come together if you've got that sort of practice. Whatever it looks like, but just do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like you get the people who go, I don't like exercise. Or I don't like going to the gym, or I don't like CrossFit, or I don't like this. It's like finding something you do like. It doesn't matter whether it's walking around Albert Park, or going to do a hike, or swimming some laps.
Or even if it's just, you know, walking up the stairs instead of using the lift at work, or parking your car a little bit further away so you have to walk in a bit more. Just anything. Like, you can just start this incidental exercise is a great way of just getting the body moving, you know.
Eventually
don't eat lunch at your desk.
Like,
just don't do it, you know. It's just like, it's a bad idea.
Like I've been taking a bunch of corporate classes lately, and it's lunchtime corporates. They're growing because people just want to get away from their desk. And it's so good to see, because I love being able to help in that space. Though, like you would know, you sit at the desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, and if you don't get up and have your lunch or go outside and see the daylight, you sit down, and that is debilitating in itself.
Well, you know, the research is it's clear, you know, sitting is the new smoking. It's like all very good if you're going to sit there and meditate for a little while. It's different to engage in practice. And of course, you've got to sit and do your work. But, you know, sitting for endless hours on end is not a good idea. Like, you know, I know people now, which is terrific, you know, they'll set the little alarm for 30 minutes. Because you get in the flow at work, and sometimes 2 hours goes, and you're like, and suddenly it's like, where did all that time go? And that's, in some sense, that's not such a bad thing, because being in that space is actually good for us, being in flow. But at the same time, like, you know, maybe set an alarm to get up and walk around the office, or go and see that person instead of sending them an email, you know, when the alarm goes up. and just keeping it going that way. So movement, and then the third thing for me would be something around ritual and discipline.
Yep.
Because we humans, we just need that. And like you're a yoga teacher, you're all over that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say the best time to do that is first thing in the morning.
Yep.
And I'm like, I work with my guys. It's kind of loosely based on Tim Ferriss's idea, for this idea of doing 5 things in the morning.
Yeah.
And he says, and I'm an early riser, so I say do 5 things at 5 a.m.
Yep.
But do 5 things when you get up and make them like sacred acts.
Yeah.
So it's like if it's 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of journaling, make a cup of tea, but do it like almost like a ceremony.
Yeah.
That can be a thing. Making your bed can be a thing. But just turn these 5 things that you do every morning into something that's not negotiable, and it's ritual and discipline, and you'll just find that it sets up your day so well.
I found like I'll fall off that bandwagon from time to time.
Yeah.
And when you do get into that ritual and that it's almost becomes just this second nature. You're just getting out. It's like breathing. Okay, get up. You're stirring your tea. You're making your coffee, and you're actually enjoying that process.
100%.
Your whole day just changes.
Completely, right? And you can. I know when I'm working with guys, it's like if I know that they've lost that ritual and discipline, I can watch the rest of their life kind of collapse around it. And so the first thing to do is to get that back.
Yeah.
No matter how small it is, because sometimes when you're in that anxious, depressive state, getting up in the morning is the hardest thing. But you make the 5 things, like lower your sights, don't raise your sights.
Yeah. It's
if you're not getting into the things that you said you'd do, don't beat yourself up. Lower your sights, make them smaller, make cleaning your teeth one of your things. It's like just keep lowering it until you reach a point where you can do it.
That's what I say to my clients and stuff, and people I come in contact with. It's those low-hanging fruit. Just find the low-hanging fruit to begin with.
Yeah.
And then you gradually climb the tree, and you find those higher apples. And
because they're more achievable at that point.
Right? You feel good once you've achieved it. You're like, hey, cool. Like I've actually been able to exercise 3 days a week, or I've actually been able to get up and do those 3 rituals throughout in the morning, and then eventually it grows. And rather than saying I'm going to sit in lotus pose for 2 hours and transcend, like that's not realistic.
No, I'm gonna box breathe for 2 minutes.
You'll probably pass out. And someone will be resuscitating you because you're lightheaded. But it's just like find something that works at base level, and then grow from there.
That's very Jordan Peterson. Lower your sights, man. Bloody hell.
It's like finding, but and it also draws into life as well. Like if you're too far in the distance, you're just going to be constant. It's the same thing as like drawing back into being so career goal area orientated and finding that next house or the next car. If you just came back into the now and just pick those things that really resonate with you and start to really level it up from there.
That's right. And the whole goal thing, like, I'm not saying I'm against goals, but you can start to beat yourself up when you set a goal and you don't make it. I sort of see goals, Hunter S. Thompson talks about goals, just make it a way of life. Like it's a bit like those 3 things that you have, I call it 5 those things in the morning. It's like if you make doing those things a goal, then it's going to be harder for you when you don't achieve them because you're going to be more critical of yourself. But if you just make that practice your morning routine, your morning ritual, a way of life, it's very different. So to me, goal, way of life, I think it's kind of like I'd prefer to be just making it a part of who I am, an intrinsic part of who I am, rather than a goal.
And I think that way then it just you move through life without a lot less conflict of just trying to push against something that there might be that pattern or whatever it is that's playing out. But if you can just choose something simple and do it well, and then just
that's how you find flow, right?
It's
like otherwise it's very clunky. It's like success failure. But if you're just moving through this flow, it's like
it's pretty special.
Things start to work much more easily.
And I found that lately too. It's just I'm finding flow in a lot more other aspects that are like, and just doing the work and sitting in it, and you just find that place where it's okay, cool. Like, all right, where's this tension point come?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
But that's because you're now happy to investigate it. Like, it's like, you know, one of the core themes of our men's circle is like being courageous enough to examine where you're hurt. And that, to me, that's kind of the critical difference between kind of what I call old school masculinity and this new, you know, much more healthy masculinity that we're trying to work towards now.
We've both been on that other
100%
scale, and it's hard. Like, I'm not going to say that it's really easy. Every man should go out there and just do this and sit in your shit. It's going to take a little bit of time.
It's true, and it's not only sitting in your shit, it's actually taking personal responsibility for your shit. Rather than kind of blaming everybody else. So, you know, there's that, you know, this idea of, you know, owning it, and then that's the only way you can deal with it. You've got to own it first, or you'll never be free, man. It'll always have you trapped. And the other part is just this idea of what I like to call radical acceptance. It's just like whatever shows up at your door, all right, welcome. This is what's going on, you know? Whether it's, you know, in my case, you know, things like cancer and loss of family, it's like, I've got to learn. This is like whatever shows up at the door. All right, come in. This is what we're working with, you know?
And that's courageous.
Yeah.
It's ballsy to be able to do that and say, and that's where I think some people will get afraid and they get scared with that, oh shit, this is happening to me. Like, and it's like,
nothing's ever happening to you, right? It's just happening.
It's happening.
Yeah. I agree. And it's like, and you know, I talk this way. I'm just like you, man. Still a work in progress, right? And I still, you know, like things show up at the door, and I still feel incredible resistance. But then there's this, it's like, this is not good. I don't want this at the door. But now it's like, instead of remaining in that resistance, I'm able to go eventually. Okay, well, you know, this is an opportunity for more practice. But you know, it's definitely. I think all your life, man. I don't think you ever kind of are able to just. Maybe some people are. I'm not. Still working on it, you know.
That's it. Some people may be living in a cave somewhere and just living their best life, but
pretty easy in a cave.
In a cave,
yeah. It's like I always look. You know, it's pretty easy to be an enlightened master sitting at the Himalayas, in the fresh air or whatever. But you know, doing it in the middle of Melbourne or New York City or something like that. That's
another story.
And that's, you know, that's where you really learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like often we have this debate in here all the time when we're sitting in meditation classes, and there might be like a changeover for another class in one of the other studios, and there's a bit of noise, and you can sort of feel, you can sort of feel some people kind of like almost like, you know, there shouldn't be noise in here while I'm meditating. It's like, well, actually, you know, maybe this is an opportunity for a bit of practice, because you know life is always going to be going on around you. And you know, try meditating in India. You know, car horns and God knows what happening all around you. Exactly. So it's a practice.
It is. And to finish off, I know 3 things that you'd love to be able to tell your younger self that might change the course of your path, or just something, little bits of information where you would have loved to have had that information back then that you know now.
Yeah, man, I think you say 3 things, it probably just boils down to one thing, man. It's like, just if I was talking to myself as a kind of 14-year-old boy, I'd just be like, just relax a little bit, brother. Like, everything's going to be all right, you know? It's like, I was just like a ball of wound up tension. And just be like, just drop the shoulders, just, you know, smile. And everything's going to be all right, you know. And if I'd had someone there to tell me that and really mean it, and I was able to feel it, I think things would have been a lot different. But that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything more important than that I would have said to myself.
I'm pretty
just
happy
relax.
Just relax, And it's one of the biggest things. It's like, I know myself that from time to time, my parents and stuff used to call me stress man.
Did they?
Yeah, it's just all I needed to do was just relax. And what I did was like, I found like surfing was my thing for relaxation. Just go for a surf, just be in the flow of the waves, and that's just where everything is just dissolved away.
I mean, I still think that surfing is one of the most profound things in terms of a meditative practice. Like, it's not meditation, but it's certainly a meditative activity. Because it's got all the pieces. Like, you literally are riding the wave, which is such a metaphor when it comes to meditation anyway. But this connection with nature.
It couldn't be any more submerged to the grounding force.
Yeah, but there's also, you're kind of working with nature, and there's balance and harmony in there, and and this whole, but also the unpredictability of nature. Like, you don't know what's coming, and you have to just kind of be there. If you're too resistant to that, it's just, surfing's just going to be a difficult thing.
It's going to chew up.
100%, right? And you end up, under the water, which Alan Watts can speak for 40 minutes about the idea of a drowning man. Yeah. So there's just so much beauty in surfing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Let's finish it on that.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Where can the listeners find you?
The easiest place is on our website, which is t5d.com.au. So T, the number 5, d.com.au, and all the information's there. You can find us on MindBody and all the other usual places, all the social media bits and pieces. But
awesome.
We're there.
I'll throw up the links and stuff in the show notes. And other than that, thank you very much.
Great pleasure. Good to see you, man.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. If you like what you heard and want to get all the info, check out the show notes. While you're there, rate and review the show. And one last thing, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes. Until next time, my friends, continue to look out for each other and continue to lift each other up.